The first day had passed, which meant it was finally time. It was time for the first day of events. The schedule was like this. Each day, the first round for every category of event would happen. Several smaller events would take place at the same time. In comparison, the three main events would be shown one by one. On the top platform, where all the students were, there were several screens spread throughout the arena, with a number on the side. Each student was handed a pamphlet at their hotel, which indicated the schedule of events that would be displayed on several screens. The top platforms would also be available to the public during this time. This meant that those who had arrived from other planets and factions could also keep a close eye on what was going on. When the main events were to be shown in the afternoon, all the screens would change to focus on them, and the public would have to watch the events directly in the arena. Underneath the arena, most of the participants had woken up early. The first events didn't start until closer to midday, but still, the nerves and excitement got the better of them, and nearly everyone had woken up early. The sleeping quarters for the events were just as nice as the hotel, but were set out differently. There was only one floor, and each of the rooms was next to each other, but they had the basics for everyone: a computer, a bed, a toilet, and a shower. The computer was there so the students could still enjoy their free time and research whatever doubts they had, while also updating themselves about the ongoing news. It would also allow them to communicate with other students. The separation was to allow them to focus and to sort out the formalities with all the students taking part in the event. There were a large number of people, and with several military bases taking part, it was easier to communicate and organize things this way. When the event was over, or when a student was knocked out, they would be free to head to the hotel where their military base had its accommodation. Peter, of course, had restricted access compared to the others. There was no computer in his room, and a guard was stationed outside his door during the whole night. When Layla had left her room in the morning, she went out and started to head to the target practice area. While walking, her legs were a little wobbly, and she had quite the bags under her eyes. Her body felt weak, and the energy was drained from her. One wouldn't expect this type of reaction from some of the participants, as they cared for an event like this. But for Layla, this was not the case. She had no reason to care for the tournament. Win or lose, it didn't matter. Her life was already predetermined. She wasn't going to get good grades and join the military or a faction after this. She couldn't even become a solo traveler if she wanted to. This became more apparent to her last night, and this was the real reason why she felt like this. Last night she had hardly gotten any sleep. When entering her room, she had prepared to have a nice rest. She had made a warm bath and placed the right amount of bath salts and solutions into the tub. She had never experienced pampering like this, and just wanted to enjoy it for once. However, fate was quite cruel to her. The sound of a message being received was heard on the computer. "That's strange. I didn't sign into anything, right? I don't think I even touched the computer. Maybe the person before forgot to log out?" she said as she started to walk over. However, even the thought of someone forgetting to log out was strange. Technology had come quite a way, and the computer was able to tell who was actually at the computer at the time through the camera. If it wasn't the correct person or the user wasn't seen, it would generally disconnect from whatever it was connected to. Still, this just made Layla even more curious. When she looked at the screen, her heart felt like it skipped a beat. On the computer screen was an envelope with a crest attached in red. It imitated the letters from the old times, when wax was used to seal essential letters. In this case, the seal was used as an angel, with its wings having been removed, falling to the side. It was a letter from Pure. They had their own ways of getting information to their members. Pure, in reality, was a much bigger and more influential group than the government would have liked the public to know. Layla's hand was shaking as she went to select the letter. What could they want now? Do they want me to do something? Maybe even attempt to someone? Thoughts were running through her head. There were many different tasks an agent needed to do, and she felt quite lucky when they told her to just gather information about the academy as she saw fit. The letter could very well be her first real mission. Eventually, she plucked up the courage and clicked on the letter. The digital screen imitated the seal being open, and the contents of the letter were shown. Agent 100, you have been ordered to lose and drop out of the tournament as soon as possible. The contents of the letter were short, and it didn't expand on instructions or even explain why. It was merely telling her to purposely lose her next match. Her bath time was ruined, and her whole night for that matter. The task was an easy one, and she was thankful for that. She wasn't going to try in the event anyway. Still, she couldn't help but wonder why it was so important for her to drop out of the event. The only thing it would allow her to do was to return to the other side. Are they planning an attack? This dreaded thought had now chilled her mind. If they weren't planning an attack, they were planning something big. Every year this event took place, and so far they had never targeted it. It was expected at some point they would, and this might very well be the year. Having arrived at the target practice area, Layla started to notice something strange. The other students seemed to be huddled up in groups and were talking about something. She was able to catch a few words here and there, and she had also expected them to be talking about their upcoming events. Hey, did you see that video? Yeah, it went viral pretty quickly. Do you think you could do that? Are you crazy? It must be fake, right? But it happened here. It was one of the students from the bases. Look at the date and timestamp, and even in the description they mentioned what had happened. That's what I don't understand, though. This person was a skilled fighter, but if this happened yesterday at the arcades up top, then that means he isn't a participant in any of the events. Even if he had a weak ability, there is even a martial arts event. Heck, there's an event based on this very game, so why didn't he join? Without any context to what the students were talking about, Layla was perplexed and was quite curious as well. That's when she heard her name being called out from behind. Hey, Layla! Logan shouted. Do you have a second? As soon as Logan left his room, he started looking around to try to find Layla, trying to see if she had heard or seen the video herself. Standing upright, trying to make herself look energized, Layla turned around. What's up? Judging by your not saying anything, I guess you haven't seen it. Logan then placed his hand out, and the little spiders from his suit started to detach themselves, until eventually they formed a small screen and tablet. The video was a recording of one of the gaming booths from the top left corner. The student was angled, and the camera was positioned slightly behind, so one could see the machine as well as the student's fast hand movements. What was shown was a student being able to clear a level 4 game, while the machine itself looked like it hadn't moved an inch. Layla had tried one of these machines before and could see how impressive it was. In the video, the figurehead had been altered and blurred thanks to the uploaders wanting to keep the person's identity secret. It's cool and all, no wonder everyone is talking about it, but why did you want to show it to me so badly? Layla asked. Logan then gave a command to his little spiders to alter the video. The blur from the person's head was removed, and now curly hair with pale skin could be seen. It was still hard to see the student, but for those who were around him a lot, she could tell who it was. It was Quinn. What the hell is he doing? She asked. The video had already spread around, and it looked like many in the room were now talking about it. The feat itself wasn't so impressive, but the fact that a student of their age was able to do such a thing was. In the game, no abilities could be used, and some were even beginning to think the person in the video must have had some type of speed ability. However, gaming systems usually had some countermeasure against abilities being used in this type of place, and this was no exception. Due to the event not allowing the use of abilities, trackers and such were invented to see when MC cells were activated in a specific area. It was the same type of technology that was used in the watches. Although the game couldn't stop the use of abilities, it could detect if someone was using them or not. The video had come from someone who had full control of the video system that day. It would be silly for them to upload a fake video, but not impossible. Right now, Layla wanted to confront Quinn and have a go at him, trying to think just what was going through his head at the time, but it was impossible. Don't worry about it so much, Logan said. I just wanted to make you aware. I plan to lose my matches as soon as possible and try to help out Quinn when I am above. The video blurs out his face, but anyone interested enough would be able to do what I did. Not that I think they could tell it was him, but I think we should be prepared just in case. Layla nodded in response, and the two of them parted ways as Logan went off to the training area in his section. What Logan said had reminded Layla of the task that had been given. She too was meant to lose the match as quickly as possible. With a lot on her mind, she took out her beast bow and placed an arrow in from her quiver that was attached down the side of her leg. There were multiple targets, all different distances away. They would continually pop up and pop down at random intervals, making it hard for one to get the pattern. Letting go of the arrow, it flew out quite fast. Just as the arrow was about to hit one of the targets, She held it in place with her ability. When the target popped back up again, she allowed it to go forward and hit. The event Layla was in allowed her to use her abilities. She didn't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, considering how weak her abilities were. If it were an event like this one, where the goal was just to hit the targets, then she would do pretty well, or at least not horribly. The students were told what they needed and what they were allowed to bring, but the finer details would only be revealed once the event started. This way, none of the students were able to prepare an unfair advantage beforehand. Layla continued to hit targets in this fashion. She didn't do anything fancy, and just hit them slowly, one by one. She just wanted to do a repetitive task, to focus and clear her mind right now. One of the arrows had left and was floating about. She held the arrow still in place once again, waiting for the target to pop up and hit it. But when the target popped up again, another object went flying past her arrow, hitting the target before she could even do anything. "Sorry, I didn't realize you were after that one," a girl said. As she turned her head, she saw a long-legged, straight blonde-haired girl standing by her side. She too had a bow in her hand, although it looked a lot more impressive than hers, perhaps at the advanced tier. Next to her were two more students, a boy and a girl who looked like a pair of brother and sister. They both had the same short hair parted off to the side. The girl had what looked like a giant version of a slingshot on her back. In contrast, the boy had several small tomahawks. Layla decided to ignore what had just happened and continue doing what she was doing. Once again, she fired her arrow, hitting some targets. Then, when she needed to hold the arrow in place, to wait for the target again. The same thing had happened. Another object pierced the target she was about to hit. This time laughter from her side could be heard, and it was from the same group of people again. This annoyed Layla, but she knew it was best to be the bigger person and moved over a little to a different part of the targeting section. When she fired her arrow again, before it could even reach the target, something came out from the side, knocking her arrow and snapping it in half. Still, she knew she was the bigger. "What the hell are you guys doing?" she snapped at them. "I'm sorry," the girl in front said. "It's just your arrows were moving so slowly, we thought they were targets to hit as well." Annoyed by her words, Layla readied her bow, and this time placed 3 arrows inside, shooting them at 3 different targets at the same time. The female quickly followed with the same, and shot 3 arrows after Layla's. The speed of the arrows was far greater than hers, and knew they would soon catch up. She was expecting this after seeing the weapon being used was better than hers. She decided to use her ability to throw the arrows off course, but just as she was about to finish her thought, the arrows from behind also moved direction, changing the path, and had hit them, causing them to fall to the ground. The women started to walk over to Layla. "It makes me sick to think someone has the same ability as me, yet is at such a low level and has come to participate in the same event as me," the girl said. "If people were to see your poor skills with the bow, they'll start to think my ability is useless, making it harder for me in the future. Let me give you a piece of advice. Just drop out of the event, don't fire a single arrow, and give up. Even if you tried, you would come in last place anyway." Layla wanted to say something back, but the girl had already started walking away, and for some reason, the sick feeling in Layla's stomach was felt once again. It felt like recently everyone was telling her to give up on the event. "Is it because everyone thinks I'll lose even before trying?" she thought. Layla wasn't as weak as she thought. Although her ability was level 2, her fighting sense was at a high level. In some cases, she would fare well facing level 3 or 4 students, as long as they didn't have a high-level beast gear on, but as she started hanging around with the others, she began to feel useless. And even now, others who had never met her before assumed her as useless baggage, and even the organization she was in. Instead of informing her of the plan they had, or giving her a critical mission, they were telling her to hide and run away. "Prove them wrong," a deep voice said from behind. When she turned around, she could see a reasonably bulky, square-headed man. It was someone else she had never met before, and wasn't in her event, so she was wondering just what he was doing here. "The best way to shove it in the people's faces like them is to prove them wrong. And when you see their faces, treasure that moment because that's the best feeling," the student said with a sadistic smile on his face. It looked like he had the experience of doing this himself at some point. The important thing was, though, that Layla thought what this student was saying was right. "Screw them all," she thought. So what if everyone thought she was going to fail in the tournament? The only thing she could do now was to prove them wrong. All she wanted to do now was at least pass the first round of events. She would show them and everyone watching from wherever they were hiding. "Thanks for cheering me up, she said, trying to guess the student's name. She had the urge to call the boy Blocky based on his appearance, but felt it was a bit rude after he had been so nice to her. "The name's Nate," he said, helping her before she crushed his feelings. "I was wondering if you could help me. You don't know a student by the name of Larry Steele, do you?" he asked. "It looks like she had no clue who Larry Steele was after all," Nate said as he continued to look around the room. Nate was hoping that perhaps someone as skilled as the Blood Evolver would be well known, to the point where if he went around asking others from the same military school, they would have instantly recognized the name. This was why he continued to go about asking students from other military factions if they knew of the person named Larry. So far, there was no success. Out of all the students who were preparing for their events, the students taking part in the fighting tournament were the most cautious. Everyone there was trying their best to hide their abilities and instead was doing some other form of training. This was because if one knew the other person's ability before fighting them, it would be a big advantage. With nothing else to do, all Nate could do was wait for the first round of the tournament. There, no one would be able to hide their abilities anymore. "Hey, Larry, how are you doing, bro?" A student's voice from behind was heard. Instantly, Nate turned around, hearing the name Larry. A medium-sized male student stood behind him, and looking at his uniform, he could tell he was a first-year student. "This has to be him," Nate thought. Inching his way closer, Nate started to perform some lunges near the area. He did this so he wouldn't look so suspicious when coming toward a group of people, and it also made sense since he was in a fighting tournament. The two students, Larry and his friend, were busy talking away when from the corner of their eyes, they could see what looked like to them an idiot performing lunges. It was clear that for whatever reason, the person was trying to get closer to them. "Can I help you?" Larry asked, not being able to take the awkwardness any more. He felt embarrassed for the student. "Oh, don't mind me, I'm just warming up for the fighting tournament," Nate replied, after switching legs and lunging his way closer to them again. Ignoring the strange man, the group started to move away. It looked like his plan had failed. Seeing that his brilliant idea didn't work, he decided to just continue practicing while looking at the two students. The two of them started to practice together, sparring and performing kicks and punches. It didn't look bad, but it didn't look impressive either. "So you're hiding your skills, huh?" said Nate. "Don't worry, when you go up against me, you can use your full strength." "No, I'll make you use your full strength." Nate then started laughing to himself loudly as he thought of the upcoming fight, a rematch between him and the Blood Evolver. It was morning, and Quinn had trouble sleeping through the night. Every hour or so he would be woken up by the dreaded pain as his health continued to go down. 21 of 95 HP. It was important to keep going for now, as he needed to curb the addiction away. Sooner was better than later, and then he would be able to get stronger once again using the different blood types. The event was the perfect time to do this, as there were far too many people all over the place for him to do anything in secret anyway. Before leaving the room, Quinn had placed his newly obtained armor into his dimensional space. After he decided to test out everything was working, as it should have done, and used his new skill Shadow Equip. The boots, the chest piece, and his gauntlets all appeared at once. Status, level 18, 10,750 of 25,600 EXP, 21 of 95 HP, Strength 23 plus 7, Agility 26 plus 5, Stamina 19 plus 1, Charm 24 plus 1, Defense 27. As the item description said, the chest piece added a stat point to each one of his different stats and also increased his defense. It was a shame that none of the equipment he had also came with an active skill like the boots. However, he knew this was rare and hard to come by. There was still a lot of EXP to be obtained before reaching level 20, the next step for Quinn in his vampire evolution. It would be difficult now since there were no more planned expeditions for the year to other portal planets. This was the easy way for Quinn to gain experience by defeating beasts for the first time. If he was to fight some strong opponents in the tournament, though, perhaps it would have helped him, but he knew that was near impossible. Quinn was still registered as the substitute, but it felt like something in name only. It was unlikely Peter would be able to escape from whatever they had planned. He also looked at his inventory where the intermediate crystal could be seen. It was just the item he needed to create a short sword from the shop. When he got back, he planned to craft the gear and hand it over to Vorden. It was a good weapon, but wasn't quite compatible with him using his blood skills, such as hammer strike or blood spray. He also thought it would be good for Vorden to have a weapon for himself, just in case he didn't have a good ability on hand to use. To the left of his bed on top of the drawer was a little pamphlet. It continued the schedule of events for the day and what was being shown where. There was around an hour left before the first set of events had started, and Quinn was wondering which one he should go to. After looking at the long list, apart from the 3 main events, none of them seemed too interesting for him. While scrolling through the list, he managed to spot one called Block Block. He seemed to remember that the game he had participated in yesterday was called the same thing. Is it an event to do with the game yesterday? He recalled playing and seemed to have quite some fun with the machine. Perhaps it was something he could enjoy watching before the main events. Knock, knock. "Hey, Quinn, move your let's go!" Fex shouted through the door. Putting his equipment back into the dimensional space, he took the pamphlet with him and answered the door. "Hey, where's Vorden?" Quinn asked. "I don't know, I came to get you first," Fex replied. When looking down the hallway, they spotted Vorden coming toward them. "Sorry about that, I had some things to deal with," he said, smiling. "Any ideas on what you want to see?" Fex asked. "I was thinking about this." Quinn pointed to the block event, and the others were fine with it. Just like him, they were not interested in anything apart from the main events anyway. When the 3 boys left the hotel, the outside area was vastly different from before. It was a nice sunny day, and the sky was blue with hardly any colors inside. It was the perfect day to have an event like this on. Seeing the sun, though, gave Quinn the chills. The ring protected him now from the sunlight's effects, but it was as if his mind naturally started to react to the fact the sun was too bright. Maybe a placebo effect that the sun still affected him in some way. On the top platform, it was filled with both students and members of the public, unlike yesterday. Nearly all the stalls were busy, and people looked to be having a good time playing games and eating food and such. "I almost forgot that it wasn't just the military watching this event." When Fex said these words, he realized something. This might also be the perfect time for them to send someone after him. He knew how good their information gathering was, and they should have known where he was by now. In a way, being at the military base where no one knew where they were was a good hideout for Fex. But in a place like this, where it was open to the public, it was only a matter of time before he would be taken back. He looked at Quinn, and Vorden walked off into the crowd of people, heading towards the events. "I might have to say goodbye to you soon," he mumbled as he quickly followed after the 2.
Hi, Quinn here. Wondering what happens next? If you want to jump the queue and unleash all episodes, click on the link here and install the Pocket FM app.